Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPNP News. It's July 6th, 2026, and I'm still here doing this. I'm still here trying to figure out what's happening to us as we live on in this holographic universe that we're, unfortunately, it seems like trapped in, right? In my last dig, you saw that Bolton faced 5 years. Was there any fallout in the UK of that massive amount of information that came out about the grooming gangs, the rape gangs? No, not really. Did you see huge protests in the streets? Some protests in the UK, but I thought they'd be like groups of white men in the street just looking for Muslims to pull out of their house, right? If I found a gang of guys raping my daughter, you could bet your fucking ass I'm in the street looking for somebody that night, calling up my friends saying, hey, right? Am I saying that that's a good idea? No, but I'm surprised that that wasn't the reaction after the amount of information. But you know why that didn't happen, right? Well, because uh, places like the Daily Mail and other English news said we're not going to really report on it too much. Right? Yeah, we'll cover it a little bit, but it's not going to be in the mainstream news. It's not going to be the big story. It's not going to be the lead-in story. So I had posted the movie that had come out with Army Hammer, who's by the way is a cannibal. Army Hammer's trying to make his comeback in a Muslim hating movie that came out called Citizen Vigilante. And it automatically became one of my favorite movies right away. Because it's sort of like the Charles Bronson movie that came out in the 70s, right? Where uh, Death, what is it? Death something? I forgot the name. Right, it's the same concept, right? It's the 70s, it's New York, it's crime ridden. Charles Bronson's daughter moves to the city, trying to start a new life, and of course, she moves into a bad neighborhood where some goons and thugs break into her house. They follow her home from the supermarket, right? I think that was the first. That was the first movie, right? It was obviously the best one. And it's the same concept, right? The guy, he's driven to madness, right? His daughter's raped and killed or whatever it is, I forgot, and he snaps, right? He decides that he sees society's not handling the problem, that crime is everywhere. And in the 70s, that was real. I grew up in mid 70s Manhattan. And at the time, it was nothing like you're seeing now. Soho in 1976 was not like Soho in 1996 or even 86. It was a much, much different ecosystem. Mostly abandoned buildings, abandoned lots, a lot of old loft style buildings as you got into Soho and Tribeca that were just abandoned, right? There was used to be the butter and um, milk and butter and all kinds of things were coming off ships in these areas and be stored in warehouses. Cheese, right? Same thing. And of course, after a while, the docks weren't used anymore. And those neighborhoods fell into disrepair. And, back in the 70s, there were just artists living in like illegal squats in some of these buildings. They'd break into the loft buildings and find a loft space. They'd hook it up, maybe run some illegal wiring and get some electricity if they knew what to do. I remember hearing stories about guys that would rob the different, some of those other warehouses still were getting deliveries early in the morning and they just come early and steal a little cheese, steal a little milk, and nobody would notice them. They're like a little rat living in the building, right? Now those same neighborhoods you can buy a condo in those neighborhoods for multi-million dollars, right? Just 30, maybe 35 years later, not even. So we had a nice fourth here in the city. It was very, very hot. I couldn't do any kind of show for the last 3 or 4 days just because we had literally it was 99, 100, 98, And after 3 days of that where you're not ready for it and maybe you don't have an AC in every room, it's rough. I'll tell you right now. Try going to sleep at night when it's still 90 degrees out and you're trying to just have a fan cool your ass off, right? It's going to be a long ass night for you. I've had many a long, hot, sticky night living here in New York in the summer. That's just because I can't really sleep with the AC. It kind of messes up my sinuses. It's too cold. But then, of course, you got to suffer. I was wishing I had AC the other night when it was 90, 92 degrees and you're getting ready to go to bed. Good luck with that. Two anti-ICE vigilante Utah court clerks were arrested for helping illegal aliens evade arrest. They did the same thing in New York. They were sneaking them out of the back of the courthouse, literally. I don't know what kind of idiocy we've come to in this country, but it's become fairly obvious what's going on if you've been watching anything like the news the last 5 or 6 years. There's, two groups of people that want you to think they're opposed to each other, but they're actually working together. Is my view on it. Now you have people like Benjamin Fulford coming back out and saying, oh, well, now the real Trump's back again. He's the good guy's back. The other Trump is gone again, who was doing all the bad stuff. And now we think that this guy's the good one, but he's only 5'10". Yeah, this guy's the real one, but he's only 5'10", right? But then you see another Trump that was who took his family privately to Camp David, right? Told Kushner he couldn't show up and took the whole family there. That would look like the right height, at least, Trump. Is he the real Trump, though? We still don't know. How would we know that now? I don't know how you'd know. We're in a bad position here in the United States. ICE will deport illegal aliens who voted in federal elections. That's a good idea. Deport every single illegal alien, period. Even if they didn't vote in an election. That should be your mission statement. You're supposed to remove everybody who's not supposed to be here. And that includes overstayed work visas, other shit, students that never went back home. You never really checked in on a lot of people. That's the bottom line. Now there's another dude saying he found a Bigfoot corpse up in like the Adirondacks. It looks fairly real. They said the DNA that they took from it was half Neanderthal and like part human. But is that real? I don't know. Should ICE deport illegal aliens? Yeah. Not just who voted, though. Every illegal alien. What about all these guys who were all over Canal Street selling watches and illegal watches and counterfeit stuff? Shouldn't they all be removed? Why can't you just take a bunch of cops, round those guys up once and for all, and it would be done with, right? It's only like 100 or 200 guys, right? Have a couple of raids. Go in the side alleys and get these guys. I'll show you where they are. It's not hard to find them. There's a bunch of side alleys that go off a canal, though. That's the problem. These used to be alleys where gangs were roamed back in the day, and now these guys are in these alleys. Nick slapped Mamdani back New York Senate candidate Aber Kawas with a cease and desist because she's using the Knicks, like pretending that the Knicks support her. They don't support you. The Knicks never backed you. The Knicks don't back political candidates. They never did. You're not allowed to use the Knicks logo and the Knicks sign and stuff like they're with you. They're on your side. They don't support your ass. Audio seems to capture Xavier Becerra detailing an assembly line for migrant children. Yeah, that's what these people want. It's not just migrant workers. They want their kids too. Why? Well, I don't know that answer. I'm assuming it can't be for anything good. It's not to make a preschool for them. No. That's only part of it. They want you to have to pay for their kids' education, and then they're going to do something to those kids. Some of those kids aren't going to go through the system all the way, right? 1 million Obamacare users enrolled without a social security number. How can you do that? Well, because I'm an illegal alien and I'm getting Obama fucking care. How do you think that's happening? If you don't have a social security number, are you an American citizen? No. You weren't born here. That's what proves you were at least born in this country or got a social security number at some point in this country that says you're a citizen. How are a million people getting Obamacare if they don't have that document? Because they're not an American citizen and they snuck into the United States illegally. That's why. LA spends $5.5 million to construct just 100 beds for homeless as Newsom's 1,200 tiny homes project remains unfinished after 3 years. I mean, you could put these tiny homes, you watch people make a little tiny home in like 2 or 3 days. So why can't you get a crew of guys that you pay us maybe a little bit less money because they're volunteering their time, not still pay them well, and then get like fucking Home Depot and Lowe's and all these dudes to donate some lumber and shit or some hempcrete or whatever. It shouldn't cost that much and take that much time, right? You get some people on the weekend, like how about Habitats for Humanity to come in? Get Jimmy Carter and his peeps there. Well, Jimmy's passed, but did Jimmy pass? I think he just did. Have them come and build some free tiny homes. You could get them prefabricated now and have them dumped on the property in a couple of months and have like 20 of them pre-made. What's the problem here? Shouldn't take that long. There's companies that are making tiny houses all over the place that are now under $20,000. You can get a beautiful tiny you can get a sphere house, you can get all kinds of shit for under 20 grand now. You can get a container house already hooked up for 15, 10, 12, 15,000. I just saw a company that's doing it and says they'll deliver it a full hooked up container, the whole inside hooked up for 10 grand on your property. How can you beat that? And you can't do a contract to get 1,200 of these things hooked up quick? Why not? Shouldn't take that long. Have a company, have Lowe's come in, have Home Depot come in and sponsor this fucking thing. Let them get the good publicity, and then you get the reward of having some free lumber, and then you build these things. You get a bunch of people come and build them. Right? You talk to the carpenters union. Hey, can you get a couple guys down here? We need to build some tiny houses this weekend. We need as many guys as you can get. We'll give you a little bonus. We'll hook you up with some food. It'll be a good time. You'll donate some of your time, and maybe you'll teach some of us how to do it. Right? You could do it. There's ways to do it. He doesn't want to do it. Just like Mamdani doesn't want to do it. There's all kinds of space in the outer boroughs that you could build a lot of tiny houses in. You could take some of the huge parks and do it. You could do a lot of different things. You could repurpose some of these old rail yards that aren't used anymore and do it. You just don't want to do it because there's no profit in it. Silicon Valley investor declares gross abuse in the H-1B program. Well, look at Texas, what happened there. All of a sudden, parts of Texas is looking like, New Delhi or something. Where am I? Am I in Texas? No, you're in freaking India, bro. We got so many Indian people up here, they're starting like Indian restaurants all over the damn place. It's like Dearborn, Michigan. Go there and check it out. Go walk down the street with some of your Jewish friends in parts of Dearborn and see what happens to you. See if you don't get harassed. Right? That's how deeply Muslimified those areas have become. North Carolina GOP overrides Democrat governor's veto of pro-ICE bill. Well, that's good. They keep trying to stop ICE everywhere, right, in the blue states. I wrote, what happened to the Brunson brothers case? Remember when everyone was thinking, the Brunson brothers case is going to get taken up by the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court never took that case up. They shelved it. And then what did those guys like Juan L. Saban and the Brunson brothers continue to do? They continued to say, well, I think it could come out and it's going to happen. It never happened. That never happened. I read the whole thing. Remember? That was one of the biggest videos I ever had. I got 70,000 views. I read the whole document. It never happened, though. But it was worth it to read the whole thing to see what was really the story with it. Was it going to be something that could have actually exposed the government? Maybe. You'll never know now. It never got taken up by the Supreme Court. And you're seeing that Amy Coney Barrett and some of these people, they're not who we thought that they were. If you were, if you were a Republican, you thought they were going to vote a different way. Uh-oh, it's getting loud outside. I don't know what they're doing in the rain. It's raining here in New York. Finally that weather broke on like Sunday. We finally got like it went from like at least like 199 to, I don't know, it was in the 80s. That felt like so much. I mean, that heat was not normal, I'll tell you. And then there was this sunset. I don't know if it was July 4th or 3rd. The whole was very, very red. Like the sun got very, very red. The sky got red. It wasn't like a normal sunset, but I couldn't really see it. I just saw it was hitting certain buildings in a certain way. It was interesting. November ballot measure will let Californians decide on photo ID voting requirement. The proposed constitutional amendment would require voters to present a government issued photo ID when voting in person or provide the last four digits of the identification when casting a mail in ballot. The last four digits of what? Their driver's license? Because they're giving real driver's licenses, but they're giving them to people that shouldn't get them in New York State as well as in California. So I don't know what that's doing. Because you could be an illegal alien in California and still got a driver's license. That's the problem. DHS offers TPS holders $2,100 plane ticket to self-deport following Supreme Court ruling. We'll help you get back to your country. We'll actually give you a plane ticket plus roughly $2,100 to help you reestablish when you get there. But temporary status, according to the courts and in the name itself, is not permanent. Yeah, it's called temporary for a reason. You can't come into a country, cut the line of all the people that are trying to legally migrate here, and then say I should be treated differently because I'm scared. Somebody in my country is mistreating me. Well, so what? That's gone on for thousands of years. Nobody's ever said that I should get free uh, carte blanche into your country because my country's run by a dictator that wants to kill my family and me because I disagree with his political affiliation or I'm part of the old political structure. Why should that give you carte blanche into any country of your choice? Sorry that your country's run by a dictator, but that's not really my problem. I live in France, or I live in the United States, or I live in Canada. What do I give a shit about your country and what goes on there? Right? Why should I have to give you $2,100 to leave when you've come here illegally? If someone's in my house and I don't want them here anymore, I tell them to leave. If they don't leave, I kick them the fuck out. If they won't leave, I physically kick them the fuck out. Right? That's how you do it when a guest has overstayed their welcome in your home. Usually you don't have to do that, right? If someone's in your house and you get into an argument or whatever, and you say, hey, I don't get the fuck out. Leave. Most times they leave. If they don't leave, then we have a bigger problem, right? Because now it's becoming a situation where I've told you to leave, you're not leaving, and as far as I'm concerned, you're now a trespasser, and I'll deal with you as such. And that might not be so pleasant for you, right? Where did we get this idea that we have to help every single person that comes to our border seeking help? It didn't used to be so. Historically, most countries did not do that. And in fact, you would be turned away with force by some if you just tried to. Why do you think China built a Great Wall? Was it to keep people in? Maybe, but it was also to keep some people that they didn't want there out, right? Like the Mongols and others, right? Who wanted to take the whole thing. Iran must develop a nuclear bomb to protect peace and calm, the IRGC media says, despite pledge to Trump. It's the same bullshit. Who cares? Who cares? Go ahead. Let them build a nuke. So what? You got two nukes. So what? We got 40. Okay. You want to launch a nuke at us? Go right ahead. We'll launch 30 of them at you. We'll drop every daisy cutter we have on your major cities until there's nothing left. How about that? We can just do that. We don't even need to nuke you. We'll just hit you with 4 or 5 daisy cutters. You know what that's going to do to Tehran? Whole blocks just gone, right? Liquidated. I don't think you want that, right? No. You don't want that. So you're not going to use your nuke, and we're not going to use ours, right? That's how we. It's called mutual assured destruction. That's why nobody uses a nuke because it doesn't make sense. We should have even used one to end World War II, but they felt they had to because if they were to The reports were that, if you wanted to invade mainland Japan, you're talking about 1 million dead, probably 500,000 to 1 million soldiers die in that, because you know that Japan's just not going to give it up. They're going to fight to the last, and they're not going to. There's no prisoners, and most of the uh, battles that we had with Japan and the islands leading up to where Japan was and the small islands we were trying to take, there were almost no prisoners from those battles on either side. It was to the death, and it was known by both sides that it was to the death. So there wasn't any prisoners, many Japanese prisoners taken. No, they just shot everybody. And if you're in a cave, they burned you out of that cave or they bombed you out of it, and that was it. Yeah, some guys gave up, but most of them didn't. Parents go nuclear on school district for forcing LGBTQ on their kids. They seek punitive damages. Silicon Valley School District new Supreme Court requires parental notice and opt out for materials that undermine parents' religious instruction. And they went through months of talks before it abruptly flipped. So, in other words, the school didn't do the right thing. You're not supposed to tell my kid about this stuff at all. And if you do have it as part of the program, you should inform the parents so they can opt their child out of it if they so choose. I mean, it's funny, but like I was just noticing here in New York at my gym, and I'm not going to name the gym that I go to, but it's like got an let's just say, what's the word I'm looking for? It's got an over representation of gay people as the employees. In other words, there's more gay employees at this place, it seems like to me, than there are straight, which I think is odd because you're not supposed to favor one group, right? Like if I have all white people at my gym in New York, someone's going to say, "Hey, really? What? Every single person in this place is white?" I might even have to have a lawsuit, right? Have to deal with. What about if like 3/4 of your staff's gay and they're obviously gay? I don't know. A Ramco helicopter crashes in Saudi Arabia, kills 14 people. I don't know if that's anything to. It could be something, right? Some big time Saudi oil people just got wasted. Every passenger aboard was a Saudi citizen, which means that, okay, well, some people from Aramco just got wasted. Is that for a reason? Why are we still dealing with oil at all when we know we have other forms of, we have other forms of energy we could be using, we could have been using, we could have gone to Tesla's tech 100 years ago. Literally, 100 years ago, we could have gone to Tesla's tech. And think about the world we would have created then. We would have really had the Jetsons world. Like, that's why they showed it to you, right? That's why they created the Jetsons, to show it, to throw it in your face. Hey, look what we could have done. Instead, we killed her. We fucked up the guy and never funded him properly who could have given it to you. We ruined him financially. And we made sure none of his creations ever came to light, right? Except one. Massive fire guts historic South Bushwick Reformed Church in Brooklyn. That was not Evergreen Chapels. That was a separate fire. It had nothing to do with Evergreen. I thought there was a rabbit hole. There might be multiple rabbit holes, really, with Evergreen for sure. I mean, we never got to the bottom of it. We never found out what was in those ships that the ship that crashed in the Suez Canal and got wedged there. Remember, we never found out what was in those ships. And the ship that crashed into the bridge in Baltimore, we never found out what was in that ship. Of course, Venezuela had the massive earthquake. I now saw in this article it said Venezuela earthquake rescuers discover collapsed buildings were held up by styrofoam as catastrophic death toll reaches 1430. So I think what's going to happen is that then when they look at how some of these buildings are created, they're not built correct. It was the same thing in Turkey, right, with the uh, earthquakes there. You're seeing like 15, 20-story buildings falling down, right? Why? Well, because they're not built properly. Now, most buildings can't withstand an earthquake, but there are ways that you can build that a structure can withstand it. Like in Japan, they do that, where they've had some major earthquakes and buildings haven't fallen down. I mean, I'm scared. Like, I live in a semi-high rise, and I've lived in high rises where I felt like a small quake hit the city before and it shifts the building. Like when they turned CERN back on, that's what happened in New York. We got a tremor. And so, like, why are these people fucking around with CERN? Why didn't CERN get knocked out like 20 years ago or 15 years ago? It should have never been created, in fact, for what it's doing. With, right? And the first Trump, did he ever deal with CERN? No, he didn't do anything about it, right? He never even mentioned it, which is a problem for me because it is a huge problem. Mamdani weighs in on changing the Constitution so he can run for president. Obviously, he's not. He said no, he doesn't think that should happen. Well, you can't. So thank goodness you can't for that reason. And then what does Mamdani do? He goes and gives a speech on July 4th and he's talking against America, right? He's that's not the day where you criticize capitalism. And capitalism has nothing to do with July 4th. Right? We didn't start off this country as a capitalist nation. No, we were pissed off because we were being taxed on goods by another country that had taken over almost three-quarters of the known world, right? Called England. When we're sick of being taxed by this country and having our lands taken by these people. We wanted to be free, right? We wanted no taxation without representation. We had no representation but to the crown. The crown ruled over us. Just like they ruled over everybody else that they had taken over before, like African nations, parts of Central and South America, other parts of the world that they took over and controlled, Canada. Cape Verde soccer team captain accused of raping translator before Star World Cup run. So there was, Cape Verde had that great run, but there was that thing hanging over them, and there was also another team that was accused of something like points spread shaving or whatever, right? Maybe cheating. Cape Verde had that crazy run, and that was some game. I don't know if you just caught the Cape Verde versus what was it, the Messi's team, Argentina. That was one of the greatest soccer matches I've ever seen. I haven't seen that many, but that was some game. Both teams scoring on each other, going back and forth, right? And then I just watched, what did I just watch? England finally beat Mexico, so I was wrong. I thought I picked Mexico to win the whole thing, but no. England went in there into Azteca and they beat Mexico, which almost nobody's been able to do for like almost 10 years, right? Something like that. They haven't lost there in a long time. And that was at altitude, remember? So, but England's always has a solid, soccer team. I mean, that's a given. Mexico had some run, so it's getting down to it, and the U.S. is still in there, right? We got to play Belgium. It's going to be interesting. I think we could beat them, but I also think we could lose to them. We're going to have to play the game of our lives. And then what did you see happen? Trump steps in about the red card to one of our players that was given because he stepped on the guy's, the back of the guy's ankle, right? But then they saw Messi did the exact same thing to somebody and he got no red card. So Trump called up. Trump, of course, inserts himself into the fucking World Cup and says, "Hey, FIFA, can you relook at that?" And they actually did. And they overturned the red card, which is like you meddling in the whole system, right? You're not supposed to do that. There's no world leader calls up FIFA and says, "Hey, I don't like that red card you gave my player. Can you look it over again?" Grand Theft Auto 6 fans rage over greedy paywalls and $100 price tag for new game. Well, the other thing is you're not going to actually own the game anymore, apparently. They want it all to be server now. You just log into the server and you play the game there. But what about if I just paid $100 for this game? I want the CD-ROM. And does that mean I could still save the same way, or you don't different save points? But now you're playing on their server. You don't actually physically own the game at all, which is not how the system was. I mean, there are some games the way you go log into a server and play, but most of the games in the past had been you owned the physical. It's like a CD-ROM game, right? And you own that game. You buy it, you own it. You have a a memory card that you insert into the game, and then you can save your your spots in the game so you could finish the game, right? So there's no physical CD-ROM or owning of the game. You have to log into a server. What? What do you own? You just own the console. But that takes a huge part of the profit out of the game, right? The profit was the CD-ROMs, and then you could resell those later. I still got PlayStation 2 games that I don't haven't played in, like 15, 20 years. Just in a closet somewhere. I still got my PS2, but it's all dusty and old. I don't think it works. I haven't had a game system since PS2. I realized how where the games were going. They're so immersive and so real that you know, you could play a first-person shooter all day where you're shooting people in the head with a sniper rifle. It's not actually healthy for your to do that, though, is it? Probably not. Dems condemn attack on Scott Wiener at Pride Parade, ignored trans militants and anti-Semitism. It was the first year since the trans march began in 2004 that Wiener did not participate. So this guy, he's getting uh he's getting treated, I guess, the way he should get treated in the sense of the way his party is, what his party has done. I don't like the fact that they're attacking anybody for their religious background. I don't care what your political ideology is. I don't think, well, that's, what's happening in the country is the opposite, right? Some people don't like it that there's certain Muslims running for office. I don't like it. I'll be honest with you. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for the country, and for obvious reasons. We have to do something in this country about who we allow to run for office. You have to be an American citizen. You can't just show up here and say, I want to be president. It doesn't work like that. Pakistan launches ground operation along the Afghan border, killing dozens. So what's going on? Now Pakistan's launching some kind of cross-border incursion type stuff? A ground op? What are you doing? Well, remember, this country has a massively long border with Afghanistan, and there's really no fencing up at all. There's no wall. You can just walk into parts of Afghanistan or into parts of Pakistan from Afghanistan all over the place, and there's nobody following who's coming in and out. It's too big. But why are they launching a ground operation? Iran humiliates Trump, declares talks are not happening after the president claims they're crawling back. So this is a week ago. Someone's lying, I said, because who are you talking to then? I don't get it. Why do you keep saying you're talking to them and then they're saying we're not talking to them? What is this really about in the end? Is it about just these people not having a nuclear weapon, or is it really about you want to get rid of the mullahs? I thought it was you wanted to get rid of the religious clerics. RNC sues Colorado's TDS afflicted elections chief for violating the state constitution. I think many others were also guilty, I wrote. Federalist. California Dems solve a fictional water crisis by taxing wine. I don't think it's the vineyards that are causing all the water shortage. It's the way you use your water in this. They started to do something with the water in this state years ago, and I'm not sure why they did it. I'm assuming they did it because they were enacting um, certain things that they wanted to depopulate the state, right? Remember, if you look at the Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2030 maps that came out, it shows vast areas of the California coastline that they want to close off to human habitation for some reason. Right. Places like Malibu, and they don't want that to exist anymore. California Dems solve fictional water crisis. There's no water crisis in California, right? You're seeing they manipulated the weather for years to make a very dry and wet, and when there's usually it's a coastal state, right? Most coastal states get a lot of rain. New York sure as hell does. Get a lot of rain here. Usually there's almost no drought here. Very, very rare we get into super drought conditions. We've had some drier times. But usually our reservoirs upstate are usually pretty full with water. So we get a lot of rain here. Most coastal states do. So for California to be dry like it's been in the past is not something's happening where they're chemtrailing well offshore to divert weather, right? You can see it. Supreme Court slaps Trump with $5 million bill over sex abuse case. So now he's going to have to pay this woman the $5 million. But again, did we ever see proof that Trump was there? Did we ever see a video where he's there in the, because that store has a lot of security. It's got heavy security. It's got heavy cameras all over. If he was entering the changing room, there should be video of him entering right after E. Jean Carroll does. Do I think he could have done something? Maybe, but it was probably more like it was uh, consensual, if anything. Trump's crusade to kill mail-in ballots crushed by Supreme Court in a blow to his election obsession. So they're saying that, mail-in ballots can still happen. Some of these states are saying, well, we might get mail-in ballots as much as a week later that we have to count. Well, why is that? Why don't you just say, listen, you need to have it postmarked by this date or your vote's no good. We're not going to accept late votes. I don't know why they continue to do that. Hegseth has undermined the U.S. military, says key Republican, MSN.com. Well, the question I have is who's actually running the country? One, what are we actually doing? Two, what are we moving towards? What's our goal in this? Is it to get rid of Iran and bring China to bear? To control China, because China is controlling us. You're allowing China to buy land here. You're allowing foreigners to buy land in our country still. You're not doing anything to stop the illegal immigration as much as you could be, I think. You're not coming into New York at all and doing anything that I've seen. ICE has almost done nothing, and they keep saying ICE is coming into New York in big numbers, but I'm not seeing that. Supreme Court shoots down cancer lawsuits against Roundup, so you're also protecting Roundup. You're allowing them to be protected. You're not doing anything about Monsanto. You're not doing anything about GMO food production. You're not doing anything about free energy released to the public. You're not giving us the medical beds that you promised us. People are dying every day. People are sick in hospice dying right now that you're not giving them any access to a medical bed. The president himself looks like he needs a medical bed. He's not in good health. If your legs are swelled up that big and you got rashes on your neck and stuff, it doesn't look like he's too healthy anymore. We don't know what iteration this is of the president, the fake president. I mean, how long are we going to allow our country to keep going down the road like this? I don't know the answer, but it doesn't appear that there's anybody on the other side here to help us. I don't see any alien groups coming out saying, hey, we're here to help you. We've hidden ourselves all these years and watched you suffer, die, be poisoned, and we've done nothing. But hey, here we are. Hi. We're here to help you now. I don't see that happening. Because it should have happened by now. I mean, look at the last 100 years. Nobody stepped in after World War II and World War One, and you never stepped in. You didn't think there was a problem, really? We're blowing nukes up all over the fucking world. No problem there. Senior police officer shot in South Africa ahead of corruption testimony. So this cop got blown away, right? Killed. Why? Because he was about to testify about corruption in the country, and there's a lot of it. People think that Mandela was the savior. He wasn't the savior. He was a continuation. That's all he was. Of the other plan that was already in place. He didn't do anything to solve that. Ivanka Trump shares a emotional statement about husband Jared Kushner's absence. Where's Kushner? He wasn't involved in the family didn't invite him to come to the Camp David retreat that they had. He was excluded. Why was Kushner excluded, I wrote. Where's Kush? FCC should scrap ABC's TV licenses, media watchdog says, alleging partisan bias. Look at these shows that they have like The View. That kind of a show should never be there, right? Why? Well, because it masquerades as just a regular type of show. It's a talk show, but it's a political show. All they do is talk about politics every time. All they do is bash one political party every time and not bash the other, right? So that's political bias. That's propaganda. That's a propagandistic message. You're not telling the public the truth. In other words, you're couching it as it's this show. It's just sort of a bunch of women talking their views on the world. But why is it that their view on the world is always so pessimistic? Why is it always so negative? Why doesn't it talk about loving each other and the positive things that humans can do together. It never brings up anything like that, really. It always is talking about a negative, a downtone. Trump is evil. The Republicans are all bad. The Democrats are good, and that's a lie. Babyface street game named McKillville waged year-long turf war in working-class New York City neighborhoods. So they get these little groups now. These kids are, they got a couple of guns. They're 15, and they think they're a big gang, and they start shooting each other. This has gone on in New York for hundreds of years, for over 150 years. You can go trace gang history back to different ethnic gangs. Before they were all black gangs, they were all white gangs with Irish last names, with Jewish last names, with Italian last names, with Albanian last names, with other last names from other countries that began to gang up later. The first big gangs in the United States were Irish. Why? Because that was the largest group that we were letting come in at that time. So what happened 100 something years later? They did the same thing to you. They just the group was a different group of people. It wasn't the Irish anymore. Now it's people from Central and South America and others who can sneak over there. And our whole country got inundated with people, right? Just like all of Europe did. It was a planned event to move all these people who were in one part of the world into another part of the world that had no way to take care of them. Hey, send, let's send 12,000 black males, 20 to 30 years old, and put them on an all white island, an all European white island somewhere where there's only 6,000 families and people. And let's see what happens. And we'll have no cops, we'll have no security, no food for these people, no shelter. And hey, let's see what they do. Well, why would you do that? It's not going to end well. And you know it's not going to. That's why they did it. San Francisco Archdiocese reaches $395 million child sex abuse settlement. Just think about that for a minute. That's almost $500 million settlement. Why? For one reason, right? Your priests are pedophiles. Period. End of statement. For some reason, you're breeding pedophiles within your religious group, and you're doing nothing to stop them. Right? Because the church knew about this going back to even before the 1960s big revelations came out. They knew about it 50 years before that, if not longer. It just was never spoken of. It was, in fact, kept under the rug on purpose. And so your entire religion, a lot of it is filled with people like this, as much as a third, maybe they're saying. Right? So yeah, you can. I get it that people hate Jews and you hate Muslims but well, add these guys to the list too, right? I mean, shit, they're doing a lot of rape too, right? They've been raping people for hundreds and hundreds of years. They just had to pay almost $500 million just to settle it, which they shouldn't even be allowed to do. The whole thing should be shut down. If you're caught doing this, you should be thrown in jail for life or killed. But that's not what's happening. Instead, they hid that fact. A lot of these priests who were doing this they weren't excommunicated from the church. No, they were just sent to a different parish and to do it again in the hopes that they would just stop, right? You knew they wouldn't stop. DOJ sues Massachusetts and Rhode Island to end in-state tuition for non-citizens. Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening in New York. My tax dollars is paying for illegal aliens to go to school and their kids. Well, why should that be? I don't care about your kids. You're not from the state or the country that I'm from. I mean, I hope you have a great life and your kids grow up and learn a lot, but why do I have to pay for it? Why do I have to pay for it living in New York City when I pay a lot of taxes already to live here, right? Why should I have to pay for your kid to have an education when you snuck into my city and you snuck into my state and you snuck into my country illegally? I shouldn't have to. I don't know any other country that does it until recently, right? How are they paying tuition for non-citizens, many of which don't speak English? I wrote. Our tax dollars are supposed to go to citizens of the state in which we live, not foreigners who sneak in. It's that simple, really. I mean, I care about you and your kid, right? I don't want you to starve, but why do I got to pay for you when you sneak into my house, in a sense, right? If you sneak into my house and you're a burglar and I find you in my house, do I cook you dinner and have you sit down for a nice meal and talk about life? No, I kick you out, or I call the cops, or I shoot you, or I beat the shit out of you, or I stop you. I'm not going to give you a meal. I'm not going to say, hey, here's all my stuff. Go take it. Have a great night, sir. I hope you enjoyed robbing me. No, I'm going to do something about it. It's exiled Chinese entrepreneur Guo Wengui gets 30 years for fraud. That's a long time. Supreme Court allows Trump FTC firing, blocks Lisa Cook's firing. So there's something going on where Trump's trying to get the FCC and deal with all these people that he never dealt with in his first term. He should have had all this ironed out so he could have dealt with all this stuff. He should have had a timetable, right? And then the bullshit with Biden winning should have never happened. You should have had the election system overhauled before the next election to make sure of that. You never did. Nayib Bukele files to seek a third consecutive term in El Salvador, so they better pray that this guy gets a third term. I think he will win the third term. If not, El Salvador needs to be very, very careful who they elect. The prisons must stay and they must stay full. I'm really of the opinion that they should just put all those people to death because, first of all, you're paying all this huge amounts of money to to feed these people, to house these people for life, and most of them are in their 20s, right? Which means you're going to have to feed these people for the next 40 years, maybe, right? Maybe 50. That's expensive. Why should the people have to pay when I should just put these people to death, most of them, if they're murderers? That way I don't have to feed them for 50 fucking years more and house them, right? And clothe them and feed them. This is one of the most harshest prisons in the world. You don't have no free time. You're in the cell, I think, 23 hours, for almost 24 hours a day. You're just allowed to bathe and get out to bathe, I think, and that's it. There's no, you're given no reading material. There's no workout, nothing. You can't talk to each other. This place is really like, if there was a living hell, it's probably in there. Lights are on 24/7. Can't sleep properly, right? You got no bed. You're sleeping on a fucking metal piece of metal or whatever. That's hell on earth. But hey, you go around killing people. What do you expect's going to happen? You're going to be treated well? No, most people countries put you to death for murder. Burnham promises biggest rebalancing of power Britain had ever seen. Will this person do anything different? Is he going to be any different than Bojo or Keir Starmer or any of the others that have come before him? I don't hear him talking about removing 1 million Muslims or more. I don't hear him talking about Pakistani grooming and rape gangs. I don't hear him talking about going over every Pakistani male in the country with a fine-tooth comb and seeing who they are. That's what I'd be doing. I want to know every Pakistani male in my freaking country right now because a large amount of them are raping people, and I want to know who these people are, where they live, what they're doing, who do they know, how are they entrapping these women and girls, what other gangs or groups of them exist, and where are they? Because it's easy when you know the group of that's doing it. They're all Pakistani. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to look in all these Pakistani neighborhoods. There are only a few of them in these areas, and you'll find them. You didn't want to find them. Is this person going to do anything different? It doesn't appear so. We'll have to wait and see, though, right? So we saw a few days ago, Bitcoin fell below 59. I saw it 58,000. I saw XRP at just $1.03, which was about to become a penny coin, right? They call that penny stock. When a stock goes under $1, we call it a penny. Penny stock. It's only worth pennies now. It's not even worth $1. And there are many penny stocks on the market, many of which, most of them don't become anything. They might go, you make a little money and then they disappear, some of them. Be very, very careful if you're investing in penny stocks. You need to be hyper vigilant in terms of watching them if you are. Because the ups and the downs that they make, the profit that you're going to be able to make is very, very, it's a limited window, let's say. Right? This is much easier to do today than it was in the 90s, trust me. Final mission, education department shuffling under other agencies. So what's going on? They're redoing the education department's being moved into some other department? Well, there's a lot of very large departments. Department of, you know, Defense is one, has a lot of money involved with that, right? Are you talking billions and billions and billions? Supreme Court strikes down Trump birthright citizenship order and blow to president. That was a big blow because they should have voted the other way, right? That you're not a birthright citizenship just because your mother comes over here in her third trimester from China and gives birth to you here doesn't mean you're an American citizen. It shouldn't because why? Well, because that person isn't an American citizen that had you. They're a Chinese citizen that flew over and went to a Chinese birth hotel that happens to be in the United States. GOP Rep Tom Keene Jr. reveals the reason behind his mysterious absence as he returns to Congress after nearly 4 months. This guy disappeared for 4 months, never told anybody where he was, and it turns out this guy was in a hospital being treated for depression for 4 months, dude. I doubt you had a very bad depression. I've been seriously, seriously depressed to the point of suicidal for years, and I never went into a place for 4 days. Never checked into a hospital. No, no, no. You don't do that. There's something else going on with this guy because he fucking vanished off the face of the earth. Was this guy replaced with a clone or something else? I'm not sure. It's very suspicious that you disappear for that long without talking to somebody within your constituency to explain the situation, right? Hey, listen, I got this like horrible depression. I'm about to kill myself. Well, that would usually mean that you'd step down then, wouldn't you? No, this guy didn't step down. He just vanished. And he just didn't do any votes for months. Mayor Mamdani, New York City Council reached handshake deal on a colossal $125 billion budget with no expansion of the NYPD at all. No new cops. Which is a problem, right? Because you got a lot of cops that just left that retired because of Mamdani coming in. They don't want to work under him. They don't like the way the situation is unfolding, where cops are being more and more sidelined. They don't have less and less power to do their job. I'm not completely pro cop. The police have definitely. I've had the police mistreat me, so I'll just leave it there. I'm not 100% supportive of anybody. I'll question anybody who usurps power and takes and that's one of the largest gangs in the city is the police, and they do sometimes, uh, you know, abuse that power. But they're a mechanism. They're the policy man. They're the people that enforce the policy of the people that are ruling over you in your world, right? The police are the policy man. He enforces the policy of the people that rule you, right? Javier Milei seeks a fresh start after Argentina corruption scandal. So I'm not sure. I don't trust him either. I think he's somebody that's wrong for Argentina. And now you saw Peter Thiel moving to Argentina. That's weird. Why would you leave the U.S. for? Comcast and NBC Universal are splitting into separate companies. That's a big deal. Remember, Comcast and Spectrum got to gobble up everybody. Of course, Spectrum used to be Time Warner Cable, which gobbled itself and became Spectrum. Go look what that company holds. How much crap is under that, which was all Time Warner's holdings. Huge. You're seeing the rise of not just corporations, but megalith corporations that own so much that they're becoming like this megalith corporation that owns, companies in different areas of capitalism, right? They own companies that, might make cars or make wine or foods. And like, look at a company like Nabisco or Pepsi that own huge amounts of other brands, Cheetos and people that make different junk food type shit, right? Nestle is another one, right? So you can that own. If you look at what Nestle holds, it's a huge amount of stuff, right? Excuse me. So they're breaking some of these monoliths up, which is good. DOJ vows to prosecute birth tourism after SCOTUS ruling. The Supreme Court ruled in Trump versus Barbara on Tuesday that children born in the U.S. to persons in the United States temporarily or unlawful are U.S. citizens automatically under the 14th Amendment. This is a problem. This is a big, big problem. And it's caused a lot of these birth hotels to become, and they've been around. I mean, listen, there's a lot of Chinese people in New York that shouldn't be here. Let's just be real. That's the fact. And there's a lot of people just in New York in general that shouldn't be here. Democrats have always been communists, and Jesse Waters called them out. Yeah, I mean, it's if you look back at and then right after the period after World War II ended, and during World War II, there was a big worry in the United States about the Communist Party, and it had a lot of membership back then. Right? They always couch themselves as the party for the working man, the working man's party. Right? That's what they try to couch themselves at. Citizen Vigilante, the film about Muslim atrocities, that's opening eyes and terrifying the globalists. So, again, if you look on the top, I posted another link because there was a Polish politician that posted a link to that movie, which I had posted, and then it got taken down by some reason. So, guys, I'm gonna have to take a break soon. I need coffee bad. And although it's much cooler today, it's only 69, it's still a little stuffy in here. So I need to get some air in this room. It's a very humid day again. We've had very, very humid weather too on top of it the last 2 days, it's rough. It's rough. New York's a rough place to be in the summer because it gets very hot and also can get very humid, like sort of like Florida, but a little bit less intense sun. Of course, you go down to Florida, you're much further south. That sun's going to bake you down, right? So if you checked out Citizen Vigilante yet, let me know what you thought of that movie. Here's a scene from Citizen Vigilante. I wrote it's for adults only. It's where he takes out this whole Muslim family of the one of the Muslim rapists. He goes and finds where he lives with his family, and he ends up taking the whole family out in the end. So sorry if I ruined the movie for you, but that's just one of the people he kills. It's actually a short film. I don't think it's like even an hour and a half long. It's pretty well done, though. It's interesting. I could see how it would get some people pissed off, but it's similar to like the Charles Bronson. What was those movies called? I can't remember now. It wasn't Death Watch. It was like something like that. He's just a normal man, and he's pushed to his limits, and he snaps. Right? He becomes something else. He becomes a man seeking vengeance. Sadiq Khan is under fire as the Met could reopen 4,000 grooming gang cases. Police chiefs have been reviewing files dating back to 2010 amid fears many rapists are still roaming freely. Yeah, you let most of them right off. You didn't stop them. You categorize them as Asian men who they aren't instead of Muslims or Pakistani Muslims. You mischaracterize them so the public wouldn't think it was one group more, and then you just let it keep happening. And anybody who came out like a Tommy Robinson or anybody like that and questioned what you were doing and said, hey, these gangs exist, you either put them in jail or you made sure they didn't have much of a get much of a following. You didn't give them a voice. Here's what the dissent had to say in the birthright citizenship case. I wrote the Supreme Court got this wrong, and they never heard the Brunson case either, right? That's 2 strikes against the Supreme. I mean, I think it's more than 3 strikes against the Supreme Court. I've never thought the Supreme Court actually did right by humanity too much, and if you ask me, they've gotten it wrong more than they've gotten it right, as far as I'm concerned. Zoran Mamdani admits that anti-Israel fervor helped his radical New York City House candidate sweep. Well, it's that, but also you're manipulating the voting system. If only 2 million people voted in a mayoral election for you out of a city of 8 million, that means that 75% of the people almost aren't voting. How is that possible? Where'd they all go? Did you throw their votes in the garbage, or did they actually vote? So, friends, I'm going to take that quick break. I hope you're doing well. My name is Ash. This is my news punditry show called NPNP News, Nonprofit News Pundit, which used to be We Are the News, WATN, same show. I just decided to rebrand because I got sick of watching these people selling silver coins and shirts and buy me a fucking coffees and all this shit that these people are doing so they can make money trying to be a pundit and tell you information that I think most of it is incorrect. And it's not, it's disinformation. Right? And if you notice that there's a group of people that show up and they only interview each other and they don't let any outside people into that group to be interviewed usually, and they don't interview anybody from any news organization at all, well, that will make you think, well, why are these people in such a bubble? Why is Wano Saban and these people only talk to a few different people and that's the only people they talk to? Because they're all in on it. It's that simple, really. So I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. This program is free. I've never sold you any products. I never asked you to send me money or buy any product from me, and I never will. All these shows are copyright free, which means anybody is free to use these shows in any manner that they so choose. You can use any sound bites from any of the shows you want. You don't even have to ask permission. It's all in there in the show description. Copyright free. These shows are made for the public consumption. There are large amounts of data, news stories, and links to other stories involved in these shows, and there's now over 973 shows. So I appreciate you. I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching. I'll be back in just one moment. Get this coffee. You can take a quick break. If you choose, you could do some sit-ups, push-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, I'm back, friends. Thanks for that break. I appreciate it. I'm just been thinking about this. I'm just really disgusted, to be honest with you, where we stand in this whole, whatever this process is. It's almost like it's engineered to make you give up, because you keep watching and following certain news stories and things that should be in the news aren't in the news and things that shouldn't be in the news are in the news. And there's people that are pretending that they're news pundits that are really aren't, that have no idea what they're doing, that are just belching out the same nonsense for years and people are still consuming it and giving these people money. I mean, usually you think if somebody keeps saying the EBS system is imminent, it's going to come any day. There's going to be an emergency broadcast, and that day never comes. Why would you continue to follow that person? And then they come out with titles like this to their news shows. This is an extinction level event. What does that mean? Who's going to become extinct? Humans? This isn't an extinction level event. It's an ascension into the next dimension that people who are low vibrating scum don't want you to get into. That's the bottom line, I think of it. And it's going to happen whatever they do, it doesn't matter. It's still going to happen because the earth is going into a higher dimension. You can't stop that. You can't stop God expressing himself to humanity. You could try. Good luck. That's what this is about. It's about keeping you in a negative vibration no matter what, right? You've seen how many articles have we shown you that are doing that, right? And we're not doing it to keep you in a negative vibration. We're showing it to you so that you can see what they're doing and then react in kind. I'm just disgusted that my country is still in this stupid. It's just insane what these people are doing, and it's working. It doesn't seem that anyone even cares. Look at New York. I mean, they openly just somehow they manipulated the public's mindset to so that they think that a communist is a good leader. And what does this guy's wife do, by the way? On July 4th weekend, she goes off to Malta on some expensive vacation. Who paid for that? Him? She doesn't even care about this country. Most of the people that are new here, they don't care either. You go up to them and say Happy July 4th, they don't say Happy July 4th back because they don't give a shit. It was like that last year. Remember when that guy was doing construction on July 4th to his restaurant? I go, what are you doing? This is a federal holiday. Don't you know where you are? This isn't fucking Pakistan. This isn't India. We have holidays here. You can't work on those days. It's illegal. You can't work on July 4th doing a construction project. I don't give a fuck if you're working on the White House. Nobody works on the White House on that day. That's a federal holiday. Nobody works. Banks are closed. Everything's shut. You can't be over here doing this. You don't even know where the fuck you are. You snuck into some country and you don't even want to obey the laws of that country. Why should you be allowed to? Why should I have to pay for your fucking kid to go to school when you don't even give a shit about my country. You snuck in here. You didn't even follow the rules. I'm sick of it. Supreme Court upholds state law allowing ballots that arrive after Election Day. So it's not Election Day anymore, it's Election Week. Rename it Election Week and have everybody be off for a whole week. That's what you should do. Because it's not an election day, and you don't even let people off on Election Day. It's not a federal holiday. Most people, if it's a Monday to Friday, they got to work on election and try to vote either before or after work. Okay, so I got to give you my thing about Serena Williams, the Venus Williams sisters getting unprecedented exposure, right? They get first of all, they haven't neither one of them have been playing for years. There's no way that they could even get into the Wimbledon main draw. There's no way unless you're given what's known as a wild card by the Wimbledon establishment. And that can be done in certain cases where, okay, this is like a former champ, a former multiple champion. I get it, but she's 44 years old. She's trying to go against. So what do? You make they make the easiest possible match. They pick a girl who's on an 11-match losing streak, unranked, somebody that she might be able to beat. And what do? They were supposed to go on court around 1 in the afternoon, right? Which was going to be like an afternoon match. It was going to be warm. No. Instead, they waited. They decided to put the match on later in the indoors court, which gives Serena more of a chance. The match goes 3 sets, and Serena had a chance to win it. I'm not going to lie. She could have won it. But this girl played unbelievable. I wrote, I couldn't believe she could go 3 sets. She played better than I thought she would. She would have they closed the roof. Gave her an opponent who'd lost 11 matches in a row, and this girl played out of her mind good. Killed her. She deserved the win. Serena was just too old, but moved well. She moved actually fairly well. Now, you see she'd been practicing, but what's the point? She tweaks her knee, right, in the match. And then her and Venus, who were supposed to play doubles, they had to pull out. And then Venus loses in the first round of the mixed doubles. So the whole Venus Williams hype train and the Serena Williams hype train went off the rails right off the bat. And don't do that again, right? In other words, there's leagues where there's older leagues where they have tennis champion leagues like that, where McEnroe plays in like the 65s, right? And then they have the 40s. Go play there. And you're playing against someone your own age where it's more of a fair match. Why would you try to come back to the tour now? Because these people's ego is the size of a whole room, right? They can't be out of the spotlight anymore. They'd like to have the spotlight on them. And then on top of it, Venus loses the first round mixed doubles match, by the way, and doesn't do the press, which you're supposed to have to do, right? It's by rule. Win or lose, you have to do the press conference. If you skip it, you get fined, but you're supposed to do it. So she's such a bad sport because she lost in the first round. She can't even go to the press conference. Don't give these people any more wild cards into tournaments because you took a spot away from 3 different people that should have had that spot, who are real players, who are on the tour, who deserve that spot, and you took it away from them so you could, grandstand and hopefully get a little bit of a drama going so people would watch more of your tournament. That's bullshit. You shouldn't have done that. Don't do that again. There's senior leagues for a reason. That's all I got to say about the Williams sisters. I'm sure they'll try to come back again in the U.S. Open and do it again. That's the surface I would have done it on. It's actually a harder surface to play on. If she tweaked her knee on grass, she probably would have blown her knee out on the hard courts. So my advice to the Williams sisters: stay retired or play the senior leagues like everybody else, and stop trying to come back and grab that glory again because your days of glory are over. Right? Here's Amy Meck's X.com page. Islam conquers New Jersey. In another show of force, Muslims marched through the streets of a quiet New Jersey neighborhood with flags flying and a horse in tow like it was their victory parade, Shia flags and burqas. The whole imported ritual, meanwhile, the same people telling us this is enriching America, can't explain why our old neighborhoods now look like scenes from Tehran or Karachi on Ashura. Jersey used to be Bon Jovi blasting out of Camaros, Bruce Springsteen singing about working class America, American flags on every porch, and dogs getting walked like normal people. Now it's Shia processions shutting down streets, halal slaughter turning animals into terrified screaming messes for religious points, and political Islam flexing in public like they already own the place. This is another show of force, a slow, deliberate replacement dressed up as culture. Iranian tied networks, imported attitudes, and zero interest in becoming American. Boom. I totally agree with this person 100%. They bring their wars, their symbols, their dominance rituals right into our suburbs while other leaders smile and call it progress. 4th of July is coming. Meanwhile, they'll be waving their flags and marching. We'll be pretending this is still the country that built itself on rough, unapologetic American identity instead of imported conquest. Wake up, New Jersey. We didn't lose this place in one battle. We're losing it in one procession at a time while the politicians sell us out for votes. So you want to see what this looks like? Let's check it out. It makes me sick to my stomach, but here's New Jersey. Oh, I gotta log in. I can't see the video. Oh, all right. Sorry, guys. I didn't know you had to log in to watch it, but it's there. So if you're on Twitter, you can watch it at your leisure. I was sharing Ari at Home's pitchy IRL stream. I haven't found out any more about who was the person that falsely accused Ari and Dills of, uh, being that they were causing a commotion or doing something illegal in the neighborhood. Obviously, that wasn't true. But the question is, does the police department used to take it pretty seriously when people called in fake, like a swatting on somebody or a fake uh, call on somebody that wasn't true, right? Because that's slant. Not only is that slander, but you could have somebody innocent could have got hurt, right? If the cops thought then maybe he does have a weapon and they tackled him and he gets hurt, the rig gets destroyed, or somebody or Ari himself was hurt, then that's not cool. Hopefully that won't happen again. He hasn't gone into the park. He did go near the park, but he didn't go inside. The cops are saying you're not allowed to have an amplified instrument in the park, but I've seen other people doing it. So if you're not enforcing that rule across the board, then there's a problem. I'm not saying this guy's rig isn't loud. It is. He can make it very loud, but it's a loud place. There's always people playing music and stuff in the park. It's always a loud, sort of crazy environment. House Republican leaders cancel votes, head home after a vote. So they didn't do the vote they were supposed to do. President Trump could end most birthright citizenship with this one simple trick. I don't know what he can do, but you got to figure out a way, or else our country is going to become inundated. But what about what we're supposed to be doing is getting rid of this Maritime Admiralty Law system. We're supposed to be removing it, but no one's doing that. Trump's not removing the Statue of Liberty. In fact, they just made a big deal about the Statue of Liberty on July 4th. We had a lot of ships. It wasn't nearly as many ships as I remember there being in 1976. I remember in 1976 being more ships in the Hudson and East Rivers than I've ever seen in my life. This was some ships, a lot of bigger ships, like some Navy ships and some old tall ships. Powerful Iranian clerics call for the assassination of Trump, Netanyahu, send them to hell. Trump reports more than $1 billion in crypto income, plus millions in new foreign deals. He got a lot of money from something, right? It wasn't XRP, I'm assuming, but his son set up this crypto coin based thing, some crypto trading service or whatever. A lot of these coins are just there's hundreds of coins now. You can make your own coin. It's really ridiculous if you think about it. I guess he didn't make that money from XRP, right? Because that's only like $1.15. State-sanctioned Russian mob ran $1 billion Medicare scam out of New York, compromised 1 million in medical records. That's been going on for decades. COVID was one other instance where a lot of people made money on that. But what was the bigger scam? See, I couldn't think about it at the time. Why did we didn't have all these food carts before COVID, but now we have more food carts than we've ever had before. That was part of this. knock out as many small delis as you can, small businesses that cater to food, and knock as many of those guys out. Why? Well, there's two reasons, right? One is you're going to go more to the seamless type apps that cater to the bigger places like the Chipotle's. You're going to be, right? You're eating more chain food, McDonald's, Five Guys, whatever it is, right? You're not going to the local bodega to get that, like that sandwich that you used to get, right? Um, and that sandwich, by the way, there's still plenty of bodegas, right, that get the fresh rolls. They got like boar's head ham. They make nice sandwiches there. I just went and got like a ham and Swiss on a roll. It was $12. That's a lot of money for a fucking sandwich, dude. That's like almost like, 13 bucks used to be an entree in a restaurant. You'd get a whole meal, right? A big meal for 13.95 or whatever. That'd be an entree. You get big chicken dish or whatever it was, right? But no, now it's in New York. That's a sandwich. That's a ham and Swiss on a roll. And yeah, it's more. It's going to be more ham than Subway gives you, but why? It's costing me like $13 a sandwich. A pack of cigarettes is like 19 bucks. Whatever. I don't know. I quit smoking. I don't know what Marlboros are now. They got to be $18 or so. 17. Everything costs too much money. In other words, right? You can't live in New York anymore. It's almost impossible because the rent is too high and everything else costs a lot. State sanctioned Russian mob ran $1 billion Medicaid scam. But what did they also do? Then they flooded the street with these disgusting food carts, and those aren't cheap either. Like there's a building near me that's doing a construction, and I noticed that all these Mexican or Hispanic males, whoever they are, that work on the construction crew, because there's no white people or any black people that work on those crews, or any other race. A van pulls up at 12 o'clock with Spanish food, and they all go to that car and they all buy that food. It's like a racket or something. They don't go to any of the businesses around the area and buy nothing. It's really weird, man. And I don't know who makes that food. They don't know who. That's not even legal to do what they're doing. They're just some. You can't just show up with a bunch of food somewhere and start selling it. That you don't know who cooked it. It doesn't work like that in New York. There's like a health association. You got to go through certain rules. You can't just cook food in the open like that. You have to have a license to do it, to have a food truck or a cart. But then there was the other part of it was, hey, we're not worried about clean air anymore. Let's just throw that out the window because we're for food carts every block, a shawarma cart. Well, I can't. How do you breathe? Then how do I get any fresh air? Probably not. Especially if you're in Midtown. Forget about that. Ohio adults arrested after 16 children found in deplorable conditions. So there's all these kids, man. It's just disgusting what's happening in this country. I don't see any end to it. I mean, how many pedophile articles have we just talked about the last 6 years? It's staggering. The amount of people being found with children in their home in deplorable conditions, people with underground passages in their homes, people, keeping children in horrific conditions, pets in horrific conditions. The staggering six-figure cost of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's Madison Square Garden wedding, police presence revealed. It was, the fact that 1 cent of my taxpayer dollar has to go to this asshole's wedding to give these people security. Are you kidding me? You should have had to pay all that out of your pocket, just like you paid $3 million to get rent Madison Square Garden. Why should my taxpayer dollar have to pay for you to get married, for the security for that? And on top of that, I wrote, why are New York taxpayers paying even one dime to protect a musician who doesn't even live here most of the year? She doesn't live in the city most no, most of the year. She's not here. Feds dismantle alleged gun trafficking ring that funneled dozens of firearms from Georgia to Chicago gangs. So is that where it's coming from, Georgia? Because most of the guns coming into New York are also coming from the south, right? They come up the I-95 corridor. Trump secretly weighs finishing the job in Iran as Vance lets slip grim new strategy. I don't know how you'd be able to get rid of the people that are in there. You don't know where they are. You could say you bombed them out, but we don't know where if you really did it. And what's going on with Netanyahu? Is he real dead or not dead? Serena Williams got blasted for arrogant off-court act after falling short in Wimbledon comeback. Well, she got hurt, so at first they thought she skipped that she skipped the press, but actually she was injured. Right, she had tweaked her knee. Which, if you were smart, you would have stopped playing right at that moment that you did. Right, especially being that old, because the more you play on it, the worse it's going to get. Even if you wrap it, if you hurt yourself, stop what you're doing right away. Don't continue to play. Why? Well, because you don't know how badly you hurt. And second, anything with the knee is super dangerous. You could blow the whole knee out, and then if you do, it could take you never could be right again. I mean, when I got surgery on my right leg, they had to cut my kneecap open, like that's where the scar is, to gain access to the tibia. Well, once you cut your front of your knee open like that, it's never the fucking same. You got dead patches where there's no nerve grows back the right way, and you don't feel anything. It's weird. You do not want to blow your knee out. So she blew her knee out. She didn't do the press. Then she fucked it all up, right? Because now her and Venus can't play the doubles now. Serena Williams Wimbledon doubles match with sister Venus is in major doubt. Yeah, you're done. You can't come back. What do you think? You're going to heal in one day? Yeah, if you have a med bed, you could. I guess trying to bring back old champions is a bad idea, I wrote. There's a reason most professional tennis players retire by the age of like 35, 36. Yeah, Novak's 39. He's a rare, you know, example of somebody that he probably has 1 or 2 more years left. He's already realizing he can't make a, he hasn't been able to win that last final, right? Most tennis players retire by the age of 35 or before, which in tennis life is ancient. Yeah, if you're 35 in the tennis world, you're like 85. You're like 75, 85. Most people can't, Yeah, you had a couple of ones like Connors in 90, whatever it was, made a run deep into the open. He was like 41 or 2. Yeah, it can happen. But eventually he ran out of gas, and he was an exceptional athlete. Serena Williams was a lot lighter than she was, right? Which is weird. You'd think, okay, this woman was a professional athlete for like 15 years, yet she was playing overweight the whole time, right? By like a lot, right? She was playing with like 30 extra pounds of weight that she didn't need. More. But yet she was winning. How is that possible? I don't know. You shouldn't be. Unless, say, you're a man. I don't know, right? And that's why she was always so heavy. I don't know. Large Hadron Collider is shut down by CERN. That's good news. But they want to make it even more powerful. They're going to turn this thing back on, it sounds like. That doesn't sound good. I think they should blow the whole thing up. I wrote more powerful. I thought it was being taken out of commission forever. Apparently not. It's going to be reconstituted as some new thing, but that doesn't sound good. Because this thing being on isn't good for humanity, period. Shelter-in-place orders were issued after freight train carrying hazardous materials derailed in Pennsylvania. So you got more trains derailing still. AI system so dangerous it was banned is returning. I don't think AI should be allowed to run at all. I don't like AI. I don't think it's possible to run your whole society on it. I think there's an AI running this fake hologram that needs to be destroyed. And the people that created it also destroyed and brought to power. U.S. and Iran to continue negotiations on day 2 of talks in Qatar. This is 4 days ago. I wrote, this whole thing is a farce. It's a lie as far as I'm concerned. They are negotiating with the same group of people that have destroyed Iran for years with their religious fervor. The mullahs or religious clerics cannot be allowed to remain in power, period. But you're negotiating with them. Nice. Here's how Fauci can still face prosecution despite his pardon. That's right, he's pardoned. How are you going to put him in jail? Biden pardoned him unless Biden was never president. But you see how you keep waiting for this thing to happen that never happens? It's part of the scam these people are running on you. They're running a scam where, yeah, this is going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. When? Yeah, EBS, EBS, EBS. Okay. I'll believe it when my TV goes blank and the EBS comes on. But it hasn't for all the years you've said it's going to happen. It never happened. You said there was going to be a new banking system. That never happened. Thousands take part in a day of anti-migrant protests across South Africa. So even South Africa's pissed off. They don't like white people there or any illegal aliens. They don't want anybody there who's not supposed to be there. Especially if you're white, forget about it. But if you happen to be Hispanic or black, they don't want you there either, by the way, just so you know. These people are bigots against everybody, not just whites. And what party is that those people represent? That's the same party that your man Mandela was representative of. So it turns out that Mandela, either that party got taken over, Mandela was himself taken over, I don't know, but that party lost its way, right? Because that party was, at the end game of it, was basically calling for the death of all whites in the country, period. Trump accounts well-timed stock buys include a stake in Taser firm now poised to arm ICE. There's also, apparently his sons are, Trump was approached by, I don't know, somebody from Kazakhstan, the mining official or the president, the prime minister, and said, hey, listen, we got this tungsten mine. And we want to let you guys come in with a mining concern and, you want to do something together? Trump said, sure, hang on a minute. I'll call my sons up. They'll just call somebody, get it hooked up with them, and they'll call you right back. And that's exactly what happened. Trump's sons got hooked up with a mining concern. They got a big tungsten deal with Kazakhstan, and that doesn't look abnormal to you? It does to me. It looks like your kids are massively profiting from you being in office, and so are you. And then they try to, get the daredevil couple how to climb the Empire State with some stupid banner like we're supposed to. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I mean, Spider-Man climbed the World, Trade Center, some guy named Spider-Man when I was a kid. That was way more amazing than what you're doing. I remember I was on the way to school. It was like in a cab, one of those old taxis. I was sitting in the seat that, the little seat that those old taxis had. They had a little bucket seat you could sit in as a kid. It was fun. And then you would face the person sitting in the back seat. And the radio came on and said, a man is scaling the Twin Towers. His name is Spider-Man. I said, Spider-Man? Who's Spider? Spider-Man's climbing the what? Spider-Man's on the Twin Towers. What, dude? And this guy climbed it. And of course, then a guy went across it on the tightrope, remember? The guy walked the tightrope. Forgot his name. That was scary. That was something when the guy did that. Because the first time he did it, he went up there by himself. There was no when a French daredevil walked a tightrope between the Twin Towers. That's a great photo of it. What was his name again? Philippe Petit, right? Philippe Petit. Look at this photo, man. What a shot. Obviously, somebody was on the side of one of I guess the second tower got this. But he put this up himself, this wire, which is actually a pretty thick cable. But can you imagine, dude? The wind up there is a major issue, right? You got to pick the right day because there's most days you can never do this. It's just too windy. You have to pick a very still kind of day, and that's exactly what he did. So yeah, I mean that was way bigger than what these idiots did. They just climbed up to the antenna from the observation deck. So I've been watching the MK Ultra hearings, right? They're starting to become starting to come out. I give Miss Luna a lot of credit. Um, you know, Obviously a lot of these records were destroyed in the mid 70s by the CIA, but there's still people alive who've had this happen to them. I mean, I don't know if it was done to me, but I'm assuming it was. Like, there's people that have physical scars that you can't say, like, hey, well, yeah, that's just from something. No, like, these are scars from something strapped into something. Like, where'd you get those? How'd I get those? There's people who have their whole memories wiped, who have whole memories of other stuff that happened and that they did that they never can remember unless they go into what's known as regressive hypnosis, which I'm scared to do. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of shit in there. If you were like a super soldier or used for something like where you're maybe like killing people and you don't even know it, like imagine that. And then you somehow later find that out. This is the full MK Ultra hearing I posted, by the way, which is very long. So Mitch McConnell was found unconscious a few days ago, right? He was in his house. He may have suffered a heart attack, but they're not saying like he hasn't stepped down. Are they going to put another clone out of Mitch? I mean, what clone are we on now? 12? Is that the real Mitch? Kamala Harris forms a power pact with New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. So something's going on here. Are they going to run her again for a president? They can't run him as VP, I don't think. What are they trying to do? They think they can get a communist president? I don't think so. It's too early. They're trying to fast track communism in this country, and they think because they got somebody in New York that they can do it all over the place. But what's more of a concern for me is the amount of Muslim candidates that are now running and winning in certain areas. Ex-CIA Director John Brennan sues the Trump administration and seeks order requiring records for investigations be preserved. That's interesting. A time traveler who says he's from the year 2118 makes chilling claims about World War III and secret CIA inventions. It looked like pretty obvious to me that that person had a mask on. The clothes they were wearing were like way too big. I don't know what that was, what they were doing with that. Do I trust that person's story? Not really. I see people that I'm not saying there aren't time travelers. I think there are. But why can't you show me a clear picture of like what the future looks like? Why are they always so fucking blurry? Maybe you think you'd have like advanced tech, you can come bring back something that can show me like exactly what the fuck is going on there so I can see it? Some kind of video? I mean, it's 2118. You show back up with some blurry ass photo? What the fuck, man? It's supposed to be 2118, bro. It's like 100 years from now, right? Blood red skies appear over Venezuela days after deadly earthquake, sparking fears of a biblical omen. Well, those same skies were over the city. I hope that doesn't mean something bad's coming here. I hope it means that maybe Mamdani's going to be replaced. I don't see how. Trump's bizarre interaction with dead president shocks viewers. Mamdani roasted for telling New Yorkers to set their ACs to 78 degrees as blistering heat wave bakes the apple. Yeah, 78's not going to do much if it's 100 outside. And it literally was 100. Like, literally 100. Which it almost never gets to in New York. I've seen 90s and, The hottest day I've ever seen in New York was 112. I remember it. It was about, I don't know, maybe 2012, 2013, 2011. I remember it. That day was super, super hot. It was also an abnormal hot. Like, this hot didn't feel right. The sun was too hot. It wasn't normal. They had went inside City Hall and taken temperature gauges, and some of the temperatures inside there were reading 60 Fahrenheit, which is super chilly. I wouldn't mind having my house at 60 on a 100-degree day. That sounds good to me. And the other problem is, like, even if you have a decent AC, if it's 100 outside and you have your AC at like 65, your house is not going to even be that cool because unless it's a brand new, super strong one, which, most people don't have, right? Like mine was struggling in my living room. Like, yeah, I could sort of keep it cool, but even at 100, I'd have to keep going, putting it back up to high, putting it back down, putting it back up to high for a while, because it just wasn't keeping like the room that cool. Yeah, because it's 100 outside. Pro-Palestinian man jailed for 1 year over the death of a Jewish demonstrator. So this guy killed a Jewish demonstrator, right? I think he hit him in the face and he fell and he only got a year. I remember a kid in my neighborhood years ago got in a fight in the village, right? Punched this white boy in the face. He dropped and hit his head on the curb and died, right? This guy got like 15 years in jail for that. Like it was like a manslaughter charge. This guy got 1 year for killing somebody. It's amazing. That in and of itself is a crime. Sony to stop releasing PlayStation games on discs. His online sales dominate. What do you mean online sales? Well, everybody's buying shit online, so just sell the CD-ROM online. What if something goes wrong with my code to get into your fucking thing. How do I get into it? I want to be able to load the game on a CD-ROM every time, right? That's the point. That's why I buy that, so I can resell the game. Now you can't resell the game anymore. That's where they get you. Can't resell it. Like I got a bunch of PlayStation 2 games. Those are actually worth money right now if I want to take the time to go into a store. Why? Because there's still people that are buying the old system still playing them. They like them. I got Grand Theft Auto. I got all kinds of shit. You don't physically own the game anymore. That's a problem, right? Because I can't resell it. That should be my right to do so. I bought it. No, you can't resell it now. U.S. labels Ecuadorian gang the Chone Killers or the Chone Killers terrorist organization. I've never heard of this particular gang. They're from Ecuador. Notice they never made the Crips and Bloods gang a terrorist organization. You never heard that, right? Why not? Those are two of the oldest black gangs in the whole country. Why didn't they make them a terrorist organization? Aren't they terrorizing their own communities? Yeah, sure. They're killing each other wholesale since the 60s. U.S. Postal Service can't follow Trump ballot order, judge rules. Chinese fishing fleet raises alarm across South America. So all of a sudden, all these Chinese fishing vessels are like in the South American waters, and they're going, "What the hell are you doing here? You don't have a right to be in our territorial waters fishing." Well, China breaks a lot of international laws, and when it comes to whaling and fishing and stuff. Remember that guy who was going against the whaling ships? Well, he was fighting against most of those were like from Asian countries like China and Japan, who sometimes go into certain waters where they shouldn't be, I think. New York woman charged with funding Palestine Islamic Jihad. But she's living in New York and she's funneling money to them. George Soros and his family buy 18 plots of land in exclusive Hamptons enclave. Where was that though? Shelter Island, right? Shelter Islands. They bought 18 plots on Shelter. That's a lot on an island like that. I didn't know there was that many plots for sale. It's an island town in eastern Suffolk, near the eastern end of Long Island. Population 3,253. Oh, it's beautiful out there. But that's a lot of plots, right? Let's just go on Zillow and see something real quick. See what's on. That's insane. I never heard of so many plots being, right? Let's see what we can see. Whoa, there's a lot of product out here. Why is there so much product on Shelter Freaking Island all at once? Whoa. Right? It seems like there's 100 things. 22 million, 1.9, 19.9. Nothing's cheap. What's the cheapest thing? We got a $2 million. This is known as like a little. This is a mini mansion, right? Not even. This is the regular house. 1.7, 1.5. There's a lot of units. Most of it's over $1 million. Here's something for $950. Here's a little cute one. Oh, you want to live on the same island as the Soros family? Why are they buying up so many lots out there? Is there something going on Shelter Island? Maybe. Is there something under Shelter Island? Does it go into a dome? Maybe. Shocking video shows Army veteran being fatally shot in a fight over a Walmart parking spot. Didn't I tell you people get killed over what? A parking spot, right? People will shoot your ass over a parking spot at Walmart. Hey, how'd he die? Oh, it was over a parking spot at Walmart. Shit, really? Was it that important? You couldn't go out a couple of rows more? Just tell the guy, all right, take it, man, whatever. Whatever, asshole. Later. And go find another spot. It's not like a Walmart parking lot's usually fully packed, although they can be. Second time a black person killed a white person. Here's another instance. It's a black woman shooting a white man, and she's claiming what? I'm standing my ground. He walked towards me. We were having a disagreement. That doesn't mean you could shoot somebody. If we're having a disagreement or a conversation and I walk towards you, I mean, assuming I don't violate your personal 3 feet around you or 4 feet around you space. She shot this guy when he was like 6 or 7 or 8 feet away from her, it looked like to me. I don't think this is an instance where you needed to shoot the guy, right? No, I don't think so. Massive sharks spotted by Long Island swimmers. Yeah, there was some big sharks. There was a bunch of bull sharks spotted at Rockaway too. Just happened to be on the hottest day of the year, 100 degrees, right? So you can't go in the water. It's hot as fuck. You're at the beach. You can't even get wet. Sucks. I mean, you could sort of get wet. You can get in the shallows and get some water on you, but maybe if the lifeguards don't rush over and say, get out because there's bull sharks in there and you can't, even 3 feet of water, you can get attacked by a shark. This kid got attacked and his foot got bitten by something at the beach. Swarm of bull sharks shut down New York City's Rockaway. I'm not saying there's steering sharks in it. I'm just saying it seems odd. I notice for things happening that don't seem normal. Like on a 100-degree day, you don't normally see bull sharks at Rockaway. I've never heard of bull sharks at Rockaway Beach. I've heard of shark sightings, not a whole bunch of bull sharks though. But off the coast of Long Island, it really is a fish superhighway. There's a lot of fish out there in the ocean, especially off the coast of Montauk. It's a great fishing spot. A lot of people fishing out there. A lot of blood in the water, right? When you're fishing, there's blood in the water, attract sharks. Sharks are moving closer towards the beaches. These are areas that are known for sometimes having sharks. Long Island also had a shark sighting of a great white. Yeah, right off the coast of Montauk, it's like a fish superhighway, literally. There's hundreds of species, and it's a feeding area for a lot of large sharks that are migrating up and down the north and the northeast seaboard, up and down to the south and to the north, right? Hyperwoke border town proudly flies the Somali flag for its Independence Day. Why are you flying the Somalian flag as your? Nothing's supposed to fly above the American flag. Nothing. And then they canceled the July 4th fireworks. They said they couldn't get somebody to put the fireworks on. Cash Patel busted for quietly hiding his own big crypto bet that's tied to law enforcement contracts. You can't bet on anything in the government if you're in the government. That's illegal. He should be removed immediately for gambling in office or some kind of crime like that. It's the same thing with Trump. If I know that if I make this announcement, it's going to cause oil to drop like $10 a barrel, and then I go ahead and I surreptitiously start buying, puts or calls against future calls I mean puts for oil to go down. I think it's a put, right? And a call's up. I forgot. But if I bet on oil going down and I can affect oil with my presidency, that's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. ICE arrests 10,000 illegal aliens in 5 days. That's a start. It needs to be like 50,000 every 5 days. Then you're getting somewhere. Here's Nick Shirley's X.com confronting the co-sponsors of the Stop Nick Shirley Act. Under Bill AB 2624, this video would be illegal. All an immigration support service provider, quote unquote, would need to do is give you a paper saying you cannot post the video and you could face a minimum $4,000 fine plus court costs and attorney fees. This is how they're going to start to censor. They'll shut down all the little guys like me. They'll charge us with slander. And that's why I share all the articles with you, right? Because I don't just say things to say it. I say things I have actual proof of it before, like, I say something, right? I don't just come out and say, hey, Monsanto's poisoning you. I can show you how they're doing it. Chirla, the co-sponsor of this bill, has received over $80 million in taxpayer dollars to help illegal aliens. It does not allow public entry into its building and is rumored to be tied to the cartels. When I tried to speak with an employee, they all fled and closed the building. What do they have to hide while using taxpayer funds to operate? This is why they need this bill to pass, so they can shield the public from looking into California's corruption and exposing it all. Yeah, when is this going to stop? When are you going to look into California? Why are you allowing Newsom and these people to keep operating? It just doesn't make any sense. And now they're going to run this guy for president? When does this fucking crap end? I don't get it anymore. What's going on? I've lost the narrative more than one time. Mossad Commentary wrote on X.com, breaking, armed man enters Chabad headquarters in Brooklyn. So a black male entered Chabad headquarters in Brooklyn with, I believe, a knife and a baseball bat, and he was forced out by, I guess, some kind of person inside, and then the cops were like right there, and they just gave him over to the cops. Bystanders quickly confronted and forced him out before he could do anything, and then the cops were like right outside. Grooming gang ringleader 73 has been convicted of 30 child rape offenses, cannot be deported, and is set to walk free from prison. This is in England. This guy's going to be back out in the street. Secret Service knew Thomas Crooks was on the roof 2 minutes before he shot Trump, bombshell intelligence report reveals. Weren't they right? Right, he was right outside the window where they had a counter sniper unit, I thought. Plus, people saw him climb up onto the roof before and said, there's somebody up there. There's a kid climbed up there. And what about the Secret Service who 45 minutes before Trump even arrived were saying, hey, there's this kid hanging out over here by the parking lot where we're going to exfil out. He's going to see us coming out. Keep an eye on this guy. They knew about Crooks at least 45 minutes before, not 2 minutes. They knew he was on the roof before that. They had to have known. I wrote, they knew longer than that. They knew he was on location a full 45 minutes ahead. Didn't you have somebody ghosting this guy the whole time? I would have been. At least have a sniper ghost him and keep an eye on him, his movements. You were told to keep an eye on his movements. And then he goes and climbs up on a roof and you don't notice? Within 150 yards of the target? Are you kidding me? That isn't just a fuck up. That is a monumental failure. Because you let this guy within multiple rings of your security after you were warned about him and nobody did anything to watch over him at all. Because he climbed the roof and was right under your nose. Mamdani can't even get City Hall to stick to his 78-degree AC rule as temps in the building hit 54. Should have gone on there and just hung out for like a half hour. Because I felt like I was burning up from the inside out a couple of different times. I was losing my shit. I'm not going to kid you. I couldn't have even done this show the other day. That's how brain fogged I was from the heat. I couldn't even think. I was so fogged up and in pain. That heat is like nothing you've ever felt because it's like a desert heat almost, but it's like cooks the whole city to the point where like, uh, it's mostly the concrete. So at night, it's even, you don't get any relief. It goes down to maybe 90 and you're trying to sleep and it's like humid and 90 degrees with no AC. That's rough. I almost went to rent a hotel room one night just to get a night where I could sleep out of that heat, but I didn't. You just you just suck it up and you deal. That's what you do in New York. You survive. You overcome. You adapt, right? You cool yourself down with water. You take a cool shower before bed. You keep a cool rag near your bed. Whatever you can do, man. You suffer through those nights. You kick the sheets a few nights. You don't sleep too well. Meanwhile, this asshole Mamdani wants you to keep your thermometer at 78 on a day when it's 100. Meanwhile, his thermometer set at 55. And you don't need to keep a building like City Hall that cold because it stays cool in the summer anyway. It's made out of like, marble and all that stuff that stays cool in the summer and warmer in the winter. He could probably keep it, 68 in there, 70 would be fine. CIA not fully cooperating on probe into COVID origins, cover up alleged monitoring of analysts. Why isn't someone calling the head of the CIA into these meetings and say, what the fuck is going on with you people? What other documents do you have about MK Ultra? Because they have all kinds of more future documents that they're still doing it. They're just doing it in a different way. Manchurian Candidate showed that they can just use your code word, whatever the word that they hypnotize you to is your code word that activates you, and then you're activated, right? They don't have to have you in a lab anymore. All they got to do is call you or hit you on your computer with some kind of I've been on the computer sometimes where all of a sudden I feel like I'm going to puke and I'm talking about certain stuff or you say certain things they don't like, then all of a sudden you start getting sick. You start not feeling good. Why is the CIA never cooperated? Why is it always so secretive? Does it need to be closed down? Why didn't Trump close it down in his first term or at least bring it to bear more? Go in there and release all the secretive documents they have. Imagine what kind of stuff they're sitting on. Illegal aliens banned from being admitted to Florida Public University state board rules. That should be. Why? Because they're not from the states. And they're not even from the country. So they're not allowed to transfer in. They shouldn't be. Some colleges like Columbia, yeah, you can come here and go to school and from any country in the world and come here and go to college here. I don't know why that's allowed really though. It shouldn't be. FBI infiltrated Gavin Newsom's inner circle by convincing the governor's ally to wear a wire. Well, if you convince somebody in his thing to wear a wire, then that means that they did some crimes, or they're alleged to have. Buffalo vandals in New York stole the Somali flag from the City Hall pole days after the mayor canceled the 4th of July. So they stole the Somali flag, and it's not there anymore. Good. It shouldn't have been there in the first place. How many Somalis live in Buffalo? I mean, it's got to be a. I don't even understand. What is this guy doing? Well, I see what they're doing now. It's pretty obvious what they've been doing. It's been going on since Obama. They are infiltrating Muslims into certain blue cities like Dearborn, Michigan, parts of Minnesota, etc., and in New York. And as many other places as they can. I mean, look, they were just trying to build a huge mosque down in Texas. Texas. They wanted to build a whole city with just Muslim people in it, in your country. So what's going on inside of Gavin Newsom's inner circle? It looks like Gavin Newsom is going down for fraud at some point in the future. He should be because he stole a lot of money as far as I'm concerned. Allegedly. It looks to me like he's, or his people that work for him were corrupt. Water gun welding menace 14 accused of terrorizing Paris tourists and cyclists as he's arrested twice in 1 week. Yeah, now these kids, what they're doing apparently over there is they just all come out with water guns and just start spraying everybody. People on bikes, people in cars, tourists, whoever. I mean, what are you doing? I don't get it. In New York, that doesn't go on. If you start doing that, you're a kid, you're going to have a major fucking problem. Somebody's going to slap the shit out of you. And then the cops are going to be called and you're going to probably get arrested. But don't let him back out. I don't care if he's 14. Make his parents pay a fine or something. Keep him jailed up for a week. Make him have a consequence for it. Man dies after self-immolating himself. So some guy burnt himself alive in front of the United Nations headquarters in New York, and nobody's even really talking about it. What does self-immolation mean? You set yourself on fire. Right? Remember there was that famous Tibetan monk that burnt himself up during the Vietnam War? Do they have a picture of the guy burning himself? I don't think so. Video of the incident posted online shows the man dressed in robes and holding a Tibetan flag. So was it a Tibetan monk? It was a Tibetan exile. So it was another Tibetan monk. Oh man. He's not allowed to go back to? He's a Tibetan exile. He died after setting himself on fire. Nobody even knows his name. He was seen in robes and a Tibetan flag. Responders arrived with extinguishers more than a minute later, but put out the fire. The man had crumpled to the ground. So they got there a minute later after this guy set himself on fire? That's pretty quick, fast time. Was that a staged incident? Maybe. Britain makes official apology to women forced to give up their babies. That's a lot of women you did that to, right? Wasn't there that movie, The Woman in the Wall or something? Where they were stealing women's babies, right? Telling them, oh, the baby passed away. Sorry, died, and it was stillborn, and meanwhile, the baby was actually alive. Yeah, they stole a lot of children. What did they do with them? Is the question. Were they sold off to rich people as adoptions? Maybe some of them, but then some of them were also used for some more nefarious things, I'm assuming. MK Ultra hearing. Rep Birch at CIA experiments question stuns the room. Yeah, I think he asked, if any of these, could Manson and these people been MK Ultra? And they're like, yeah, probably. Shit, look at what these people were doing. Why would you go into someone's house and cut a woman's baby out of her stomach? I don't know. That's not something most normal people would do. Mamdani blasts capitalism and foreign wars in America 250 address while sitting at George Washington's desk. I mean, you got some nerve. You probably cheated your way in the election to get in there, and then now you're lecturing us. What, we should be communists? Right? We should let nobody own any land. We should give all the land to the government. Is that what you want? How are you going to get your food? Here's an opinion piece. Iran has made it perfectly clear that the same old sick regime is still in charge. Yeah, you're not. Nobody's different is in there. Woke New York City mayor's wife was seen boarding a carbon belching flight to Mallorca after he urged locals to keep their ACs at 78 degrees. Yeah, well, your wife's on an air conditioned plane in Mallorca. What, on the beach? Why didn't you go with her? All right, you had to made your communist speech at George Washington's desk in New York. Mamdani uses the America 250 to bash the nation and embraced him as a child, granted him citizenship, and elected him mayor of New York City. He claimed that the powerful believe only a select few are allowed freedom in America and that not all are created equal. I don't know. I think that more than a few people are free. I think most of the people in this country are free, right? You're not being told where to go, or at least not yet. You can get in your car and go somewhere and not be stopped by some uh, goons on some road saying, "Hey, there's a stop here. You got to pay a fine to get through." No, not really. You can. If I get in my car in New Jersey or New York and I start to travel west and I obey the speed laws and I don't do anything to break any of the laws that are on the road, I should travel unmolested, unbothered the whole way there. I'm free to travel from coast to coast, right? Unbothered. Yeah, if you obey all the traffic laws, that should be the case. That happened to me. I went from New York to Reno, Nevada. I never got stopped by a cop one time. I obeyed all the traffic laws and was speeding just a bit here and there. Well, I sped quite a bit, but if the speed limit's 80, you can go 85. So some of those states out west, the speed limit is 80, which is much, much better. Well, it's a little more dangerous, though, too. Argentina survives massive Cape Verde scare in World Cup. That was a crazy match. One of the greatest matches I watched ever seen. Both teams moving the ball up and down the field, seemingly at will. So many shots on goal saved on both sides. Amazing defense from both teams. Grueling match. All right, that match was grueling. It went over 2 hours. There was two extra periods. Right, there was a 30-minute extra period. So it's a lot of running, man. That could have gone either way. Early copy of Mamdani's America 250 speech reveals the depressed team's painfully performative edit. So they're trying to edit this thing and make it sound even more, inclusive. I don't know what you were trying. It's a horrible speech. It should have never happened. I mean, this is our birthday. You don't criticize the country on its birthday. You wish it a happy birthday and you talk about the future now. What can we do going forward? Is our is our past perfect? No, but look at how our country was created from a ragtag group of guys that just got pissed off at having their neck stepped on and said, "I'm going to do something about it." It wasn't even a real army that we had. Think about that for a second. And we defeated one of the biggest, most powerful armies the world had ever seen. How did we do that? Think about that for a second. Those are the type of people we need now. Those are people that would, no matter what the cause or the cost, were willing to pay it so as they could be free. And you're going to sit there 250 years later, a foreigner in this country who's elected to public office, and criticize that? When that country welcomed you, gave you shelter, gave you a way forward, gave your parents a way forward, and now you're the mayor of one of the largest cities, and you're going to come in and bash that city and bash that country? How dare you do that? Shame on you. Shame. CIA killed Americans. Rep Luna uncovers $375,000 MK Ultra scheme and explosive hearing. So you can watch. I urge you to watch the full MK Ultra hearings at your leisure, but I urge you to watch them so that you can understand what's been going on. That people have been, one of the things that came out in that was that one of the prisons, they took African American prisoners and without their knowledge were giving them double doses of LSD, some for as many as 75 days in a row. Can you imagine being double dosed? Not just one tab, double dosed. Okay, I had a friend that double dosed himself uh, on Halloween one year, right? Decided, hey, I'm going to trip out on acid, man. I'm going to get the full fucking experience. I'm going to pop 2 tabs of acid like an idiot, right? And was tripping for, I don't know, over 24 hours. He had to have someone dealing with him, have him locked up somewhere till he came back down because he was fucking losing his shit. And imagine now being dosed with that drug, not knowing that you're being dosed with it. And imagine seeing and the things you're going to see. I mean, some of these people probably lost their mind and killed themselves, I'm assuming, or went completely insane. And you don't know what's happening to you. That's the worst part of it. So apparently, Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, got charged with a hit and run. He was driving drunk. I don't know what's wrong with these people. They have all kinds of money, but they have to drive their own car when they drink. Just get a car service, man. Pay for it. Pay a little extra and get yourself chauffeured home. I mean, these people got so much money, they could be driven around in a limo everywhere. They don't need to drive. Mom Donnie's wife, they misspelled it. Mondani's wife, or is it Mondani? Momdani, right? Mom Donnie's wife, Rama Duwaji, ditches America 250 bash for Islamic spiritual wellness retreat in Spain. How much does that cost? That coming out of his pocket, I'm assuming? She doesn't have any money, right? She made less than, I don't know, $5,000 last year or the year before. DC's National Mall was evacuated as storms moved in before Trump's speech, so there was a lot of bad weather. The fireworks here were pretty amazing. I took some shots. I put them up on my thing. It's not nothing too amazing. Just it's average stuff. Have I seen better fireworks? Yeah. They started to hold the fireworks in the lower East River and just by the Brooklyn Bridge, and then by in the Hudson River. So it's not nearly as good of a. It looks better when they do it in the upper East River, where they launched the rockets there, because it sort of has the city to frame it as a background more. So I just think this show is not as impressive if it's the way they did it. Of course, they had some stuff on the Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge actually caught fire from all the stuff shooting off of it. Brooklyn dominatrix saran wraps a sub to a street pole and douses him in milk. This actually happened in like the Lower East Side. It used to be that public things like this were actually illegal, but she's not naked, and I guess he isn't either. So I guess it's like maybe she didn't break. She broke some kind of a law. I'm not sure what law. Public indecency, maybe something like that. I'm not going to show you the picture. You can look it up yourself. So Joey Chestnut won the 4th of July Nathan's hot dog eating contest for an unrivaled 18th time. And guess how many dogs he ate, by the way? Just happened to eat 66 dogs. Just happened to eat 66. Not 65 or 4 or 67. Pennsylvania teachers pension fund has $41 billion shortfall. Cites private equity as biggest drag. Public school worker pension fund last year missed the investment benchmark that officials set. This has me very worried because a lot of pension funds are invested in the stock market, and in particular invested in what most people know as mutual funds, right? Usually a mutual fund is something good to invest in. And they invest in all different kinds of things, right? Some mutual funds invest in just blue chip stocks. Some invest in more tech stocks. Some have a blended. You can get a blended fund. There's all kinds. There's thousands of mutual funds. I used to invest in like Fidelity. I remember years ago I invested in this Fidelity technology fund, and that thing went up so huge over a bunch of years. I sold out eventually, but if I had stayed in that for like another 5 years, oh my God, I would have made a lot of money. So there are funds like this that invest in tech stocks. You can find different kinds. But, if the market does tank, which a lot of people think it's going to worse than 2008, because it's built into it's part of the mechanism of it that it's set up it to every 40 or 50 years or so to crash, right? And the people that are running it know when it's going to crash so they can double their profits. Kash Patel announces 305 arrests and 24 kids recovered in major Chicago federal operation. Patel described the initiative known as Operation New Dawn as a coordinated effort involving multiple federal agencies, targeting violent crime, drug trafficking, and child exploitation cases across the region. Holiday haters. While most Americans celebrate the 250th, many Dems use the anniversary to denigrate the United States. Polls show a growing animosity towards the U.S. among those on the left, and New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani wasn't the only Democrat who used America's 250th birthday to criticize President Trump, White House celebrations, the state of the country, and its founders. There's a time and a place, though, for everything, right? You don't do that on our birthday. Here's a country that most of these stars should be happy to live in. I mean, you've lived in this country, you've made a fortune here, you've been allowed to have the adoration of millions of people who have watched your movies and enriched you and enriched the movie studios that you represent. You should be a little more, I think, happy, right? You could have grown up in a country that didn't allow you to act. If you grew up in a Muslim-dominated culture, they might have not let you act like that. You wouldn't have been able to be in movies like that, possibly, right? Who is paying for this? Mamdani's wife traveling to Spain. Who's paying for it? Is it Zoran? And why is her name Duwaji and not Mamdani is your last name? Are you really married to this woman or is she just running you? The Brooklyn Bridge actually caught on fire yesterday. There was so much crap and rockets being launched off this thing. So that's not supposed to happen, right? Somebody malfunctioned. Somebody made a mistake. And it could have resulted in a big problem because there was a fire on the bridge. They were shooting rockets and a lot of effects going off the bridge. That's a pretty large fire, too, by the way, it looks like. So you can see here some of the fireworks that were in the background, and some of them are... I think they were doing mostly light effects on the bridge, but some rockets were also being launched off the bridge, I think. So they put it out fairly quickly. I just wanted to show you that the bridge caught fire. Trump boasted Netanyahu knows who the boss is and claims the Israeli PM asked him for a White House meeting as soon as next week. Well, I'm sure he wants a meeting because he doesn't seem to be backing out of Lebanon. And now Israel has... there's something else that Israel did. I'll get to that in a minute. State-run facility for disabled New Yorkers has had no AC for nearly 3 years. Oh, my God. How did they get to the last 3 days, I wonder, over there? You could have people dying, right? There's nowhere to cool off. Maybe they have a pool, but that's not good. You have a massive facility with no AC. You know, the original Sing Sing prison used to be upstate. There was no heat. There was no AC in the summer. You'd freeze in the winter and bake in the summer in there. They didn't care if you froze to death. Nearly a dozen members of wealthy Soros clan are pouring money into House and Senate midterm races. So they looks like they're pouring money into Shelter Island. They're buying that up like crazy. And they are putting a lot of money into the midterms behind certain Democrats. New Yorkers are frustrated over Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's MSG wedding. It's just ridiculous. Quote, and then you do it on a day where we're supposed to honor American history and America's birthday. Yeah, why would you do it? Why would you, of all the days this woman could have got married, she decides to do a July 4th weekend. Why would you do that? It's the most chaotic, crazy weekend of the whole summer. Pretty much. Why would you do it that day? I don't know. Are they doing some kind of satanic thing inside there? Maybe, because some of the pictures came out of what it looked like. It was like a whole jungle setting thing and looked like. Trump's message for America 250. You can be a communist or you can be a patriot. You cannot be both. You can be loyal to Karl Marx or you can be loyal to America. You can be a communist or you can be a patriot. You cannot be both. That's true. I mean, if you want to be a communist, go to a communist nation. Go to the USSR. Go to Russia. Go to one of the few nations that are still communist. Don't try to make our country communist. We're not interested in communism here. And we really shouldn't be interested in capitalism either, because All of these systems require like a slave race, I call it, to run. They have to be a group of people in any system like this that don't make it, that don't thrive. Why? Because they're the guts of the system that make it run. Right? All those plantation owners, the only reason they got rich was because they owned the human beings that work for them. Therefore, I don't have to pay you a salary or anything like that. All I got to do is feed you and clothe you and house you, and that's it. You don't get any fucking days off. You don't get any holidays. You work from sunup to fucking sundown until you fucking die, and that's it. And if I want to breed you, I'll breed you. And there's nothing you can do about it because I own you. You're not human. You're only 1/9 of a man, 1/8 of a human, or 1/7, whatever I make you into. You're not human. That's the only way that system thrives, by dehumanizing human beings. And in a sense, capitalism does the same because it's going to make a certain group of people that never get out of the poverty that they're in. They're going to always be poor. A seaplane carrying 10 passengers crashed into the East River. So these seaplanes are constantly coming in the city. And some of these guys, they drive crazy. I tell you, man. They're flying around. I wouldn't want to try to land a plane in the East River. Man, that's a rough business because you're flying around all kinds of fucking tall buildings. You better have your shit together if you're flying into there. Of course, there used to be a in Wall Street used to have a heliport where, planes would take off from Wall Street in the water, and they still have planes take off in the East River. California's 4th of July plunges into hell as stores are looted and police horses charge and fires break out. So there was some problems in some places. There was a police officer was attacked during this one by feral teens in Charleston. Feral teens filmed beating up female cop at July 4th event. So there's these cops, like 3 or 4 teens just beating the shit out of this female cop. And thank God some people came in and pulled them off her quick because she was about to get hurt. And whoever these kids are who are doing this, they need to start charging these kids with felonies if they're involved. If they have a gun and you're attacking a police officer, that usually carries a 6-year charge in New York. It used to. They used to have signs saying it. If you attack an MTA worker or a police officer, it's the same thing. It's a 6-year charge. Okay, we'll start charging these people 6 years in jail. Yes, that plus prison time for the teens, but putting a small blonde woman in a police uniform is waving a red flag at the teens. Even if you know jujitsu, how are you going to deal with 3 people trying to beat the shit out of you? The only thing you could do is try to pull your firearm, but you can't. They're already on top of you. And what if they take your firearm from you? She posted to X saying that the parents of the kids involved should be banned from federal handout programs. Well, you should be arrested. You should be no more SNAP benefits should be given to people like this. And maybe you lose your housing too. I don't know. Maybe that's something that has to be looked at for these parents of kids like this that this keeps happening with. Because obviously you're not parenting your children right if they think it's okay to just gang up into a group of 100 and start attacking everybody. But my question is something causing this to happen? Are they calling them feral teens? What is causing them to act this way? Is it just that they hate society? They hate everything? They want to hurt people? They like violence? Or is some kind of energy being beamed onto large groups of these kids I think that's what's happening. I'm not sure yet. Is it something to do with the COVID vaccine? It could be. Right? There's ways of putting a certain megahertz on you that makes you agitated. Right? We know that. Just like music can soothe the savage beast, it can also make you go a little bit nuts, I think. Mamdani officials scramble to ease concerns about public supermarkets, but local business leaders aren't buying it. Netanyahu government declares it will ignore Israeli Supreme Court order, paving the way for a constitutional crisis. So he's not going by the Supreme Court anymore. Female officer was pummeled by mob. We just saw that article. Here's Spencer Pratt talking about communism. Spencer Pratt video dismantles Mamdani and communism. It's not only okay to love America, it's necessary, Pratt says. Matthew 12:25, he writes. Millions of Americans are sick of the communists creating this. This is the problem now. Now we got Muslim infiltration, communist infiltration. Chinese infiltration, other infiltration, cartel infiltration, gang infiltration. What else infiltration? Government infiltration. Our government is corrupt. Our government has allowed cartels and gangs to flourish in the country and to profit from drug sales and human trafficking, etc. Right? The government has allowed it. Can you understand that? Your government has actively allowed Chinese infiltration, Chinese land purchases. We have the solar winds hack never got found out. Other hacks, the balloons that were coming over, right? It almost seems like you're jumping from one thing to the next, and there are always these people in the background going, "Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there." Almost there to what? Putting in the data centers that you want? That's going to have all of everybody's information, everything you ever did, said, your full your full DNA genome, everything else. Because then they could do what? They can do predictive. They could predict maybe what you might do, right? Is this pre-crime? Is that what they're trying to do? Are they trying to do pre-crime? I don't know at this point, but I'm worried about it because I'm not seeing enough pushback in the government. I'm not seeing the people who we thought were the heroes who were saving us save us. They're not saving you. They're just continuing to put out the same talking points of a few of their pundits keep putting out to push this, kick this can further down the road till it never happens, right? I mean, if you had the med beds already, why didn't you let them come out? If you have free energy already, you should have let it come out. Why are you not letting it come out? And now you give us this little thing. Oh yeah, there was the MK Ultra, but you're not getting into the main part of it, right? It was the part that the military was abducting people. You're not getting into that. There were military abductions that went on. People were abducted by their military, tortured, used in programs, and then reinserted back into their life with their memories wiped. That's illegal. That shouldn't have happened. That needs to come out, and it's not so far. And so I think this MK Ultra thing is just going to scratch the surface of it, and that's it. Yeah, some people and the prisons got experimented on. We did some bad stuff. We killed some people. We showed you that they were experimenting on kids years ago, way before this information came out in these public hearings. You knew that if you watched this channel, that MK Ultra had been done on children. It just got sent out to Canada, most of that stuff. But what did they how were they doing it? They were doing it through universities and hospitals and prisons. And the CIA needs to be held to account for all of that. All the documents need to come out about it and what happened after that, etc. So, friends, I hope you're well. We're continuing to wait to see if there's any punishment for these people. There's no politicians have been arrested, no major politician arrests. Nobody's in Gitmo as far as we know. Nobody's being hung in secret tribunals that we know of. There's no medical beds have been released. There's no free energy's been released. America still is apparently being run by a president that's not the real president as far as I can see. And we're no further along or closer to a new banking system I can see or anything like that at all. I don't see any evidence of it. So I'm sorry to report that, but that's where we stand right now. And America seems to be in a bad position where we don't want to talk about our past and what we've done to our own citizens in the world. We don't want to talk about the fact that we have subjugated a large portion of the world using our CIA and other groups to do so, using our military. Part of that system of, the Vatican, City of London, and of course the US is the military arm of that junta, right? And we're still not at a place where we are disseminating the proper information to the public so that we can understand what's happened to us. So we'll continue to report on the news stories as they come out. We'll continue to give you my opinion on what I think is happening, but it's becoming redundant at this point because the things that need to be done are not being done. The people that need to be going to jail are not going to jail. The devices and the tech that needs to be released to the public is not being released to the public. And until these things start to happen, I can't tell you with any sort of honesty that I think Trump is doing the right thing because I just don't think he is, unfortunately. And until those things change, some of those core things start to change, and we start to see if aliens are real and all this stuff comes out, I can't tell you that I think we're in a good place when I don't feel like I am, or we are. So that's where we are, friends. We'll continue to watch and report on factual events as they happen. I appreciate you listening to this channel. If you still are after all these years, I appreciate you. This is your friend Ash, NPNP News, signing off for now.